Earlier today, GGG dropped a pretty fantastic patch for Path of Exile. The Settlers League has already been pretty great so far, and this patch really improved a lot of things that people had been asking for, including myself, so let's just go ahead and dive right into those patch notes right now. Except, of course, first I have to say my name. I'm Larold, and please like and subscribe. It's YouTube, all that stuff. Okay, now let's look at them. So right off the bat, we get some really good UI quality of life improvements for the shipping UI. Shipping is kind of the main mechanic of the league. It's the main way that you're able to extract currency from the gold that you generate. You know, you do stuff in the game, get gold, use that gold to like farm up crops and then ship them to other ports, and then they'll bring back currency. That is kind of the main thing that this league is built around, and so having more information in the UI, and I can show that off by actually going to the town, not looking at it. And so, like, if I were to ship out this ship here, now instead of there just being sort of, I'm going to ship out however much of an item, there's actually this little display window over here telling me, I have 1,300 pumpkins, I have 10,000 ears of corn. You know, I'm from Iowa. Now, there's also this important note here, updated the shipping risk information to clarify that risk doesn't affect the chance for crew members to be lost. Like sometimes you'll get a notification that your crew member went on a successful trip to a far port and decided they were going to stay there and live a new life. Good for them. But that risk doesn't affect that. And also for your ship to be commandeered, which this is something people had talked about, trying to max your risk so that you will get the pirate boss fight more often. Turns out that is not related at all. A lot of people had maybe speculated that was the case, but it was kind of unclear, and it does seem like the best way to farm that pirate boss is just send quick ships in and out. They can be whatever risk level, doesn't really matter, but just as quick as you can. Seems like it. I would imagine, not knowing, that there's probably increased weight on further distance ships, treks, whatever, for the pirate bosses to spawn. But thus far, I've gotten several pirate bosses now. I got a couple of them in rapid succession yesterday. I think like 3 of them in the span of like an hour or something. And it just sort of seems to be random. Sometimes it'll happen. That's pretty much it. Don't really have any control over it, and it's good to at least have that acknowledged. Verisium monsters now have increased toughness instead of less damage taken. This is good. This means that the Verisium nodes, especially when you channel them way up to like 90 or 100% or whatever, are just way less tanky. They weren't really dangerous, or I mean, all that dangerous, but boy, they took a long time to kill, especially considering that a lot of the content, you know, I'd be slamming through stuff, got all my void stones on this character, shredded everything in the end game, and then you get to a Verisium monster and you're just sitting there just like whacking on it for like, you know, bam, 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 for like 10, 15 seconds. It gets very boring. And so, yeah, you know, I think that's a good change. Definitely something that needed to be done. More importantly, they reduced the move speed and the danger of the bismuth tornadoes. Those things killed me. I put that in the last video. Me like looking through UI stuff and just getting killed by a random tornado. I have gone and compared the danger of tornadoes before and after the change, and it is definitely improved. This was the biggest piece of feedback I had. The bismuth tornadoes were absolute garbanzo, and now they're fine. They're fine. Also, I guess the orichalcum storms could hit minions as you were getting close to them. Again, as somebody who's not a minion man, I didn't know that, but I guess, you know, that was probably pretty irritating for Gazzy and all of his followers, so, you know, good for them, right? Now, the currency exchange has gotten some really good quality of life, and I'm going to go talk to my boy Faustus in my hideout and kind of show off some of this quality of life that's happened here, but I guess I should probably have some currency in my bag just to kind of show it off, stuff that I would want to trade. All right, I have a couple of just very basic scarabs here, Cartography Scarab of the Multitude and some Harbinger Scarabs, and I'm just going to kind of show off what they have done here. First, I'll read it. They've added an owned tab to the I have currency selection, which filters the options down to currency you already have. So if you click, if you click the right side here, the currency exchange, because technically it's not an auction house, and that's sort of something I guess I'll talk about a little bit here. You know, this isn't a WoW style auction house, right? I've called it an auction house a bunch, but technically it's all buy orders. And then it has some really smart technology on the back end to make it so that if you've put in a buy order to buy divine orbs for chaos, and then I put in a buy order to buy chaos orbs for divine, it will sync those two up and kind of hand off and, you know, do the handshake for us and make it so that we are exchanging. And then when there are like little bits of currency, you know, a couple of rounding errors here or there, it will kind of hand those back to you. Really good stuff. But there were still some UX issues. Like every time you would click the I have, it would default to currency. And this could get pretty annoying when you're trying to trade like 50 different types of essences or scarabs. Every single time it defaults to currency. And so you would type in like, all right, Harbinger Scarab. And it's on the currency tab, so you would then have to go like, nope, scarabs or all or whatever. And so this has been fixed by just defaulting to the all tab instead of the currency tab. I'm not sure where, here it is. The popular tab is no longer selected by default. That's what it was, the popular tab. So, you know, it'll be the owned tab or the all tab. Either of those is fine. And it just makes it like a lot better quality of life. But also you can now do this. I'm holding control. I'm going to left click. Bing, bang, boom. It immediately throws my currency in there. And then now I can say, what do I want? Chaos orbs. When do I want them? Right now. And, you know, it has the recommended ratio, the ratio of the current buy orders that are out there. So like if I wanted to sell these 3 Harbinger Scarabs, I could sell them 14 Chaos Orbs for the 3. That's a little under the ratio. Maybe I'll, you know, this is something that definitely happens a lot with this because again, it's not an auction house. The ratios can fluctuate very quickly. I've had things go from like 3-to-1 to 5-to-1 to 7-to-1 to 10-to-1, like in the span of just sitting there and like taking a couple bites of a sandwich or whatever. And so if something seems like it's really bad, you kind of want to compare a ratio, you know, and if it's really unfavorable compared to the non-currency exchange, the traditional trading method, maybe wait a bit, it might even out. Case in point, I waited a little too long. I think all of my 5-to-1s got bought up. Now it's going to be or I should say, 5-to-1 now it's going to be more like, no, see, you know, there you go. Sometimes when things are a little close, you can kind of just throw them out there and wait a couple of seconds. It won't necessarily be literally instant, but it, you know, you might get your chaos back pretty quickly. Again, we can do the same thing here with the Cartography Scarab of the Multitude. I got 3 of those. Punch those in. Those go for 12 a pop. Pretty nice. So again, pop that in. 36 chaos for the 3 of them. Place that order. It's instant. So sick. Like, I have made literally thousands of chaos. I've burned through tons of chaos doing different farm strategies and like playing around with some possibilities with the build that I've ultimately noped my way out of thus far. So I've burned through tons and tons of chaos and regret orbs and still been able to very quickly regenerate that just by selling off any scarabs, any essences, any sort of currency that I'm not actively using. You're able to instantly liquidate with like no difficulty at all. Now, there was another change. This has been talked about by a lot of people, but the Divination Scarab of Plenty previously made it so that magic monsters would have a 1% chance to drop divination cards, and then people were using this, and obviously this exploit has been fixed, and you know, the people who are responsible for it have basically been put in jail. I don't think they've said what they've done with them, but all the currency that they farmed has been quarantined. But they use the scrying method, the new scrying method from I forget his name, it doesn't matter, the seer, the nameless seer, who you can occasionally run into, and he'll allow you to swap the divination cards of the current map that you're in with a different map. People did that, and they swapped it so that Brother's Gift would be on a low-level map. It would be the only div card that would drop, and then they would use the Scarab to spam farm like hundreds and thousands of divination orbs worth of Brother's Gifts by having a 1% chance for all the magic monsters in those packs to drop a div card that's worth 5 divines. Completely insane. I think that was the extent of the tech. I really haven't spent that much time worrying about it because ultimately it was like, once I first heard about it, it was very clearly an exploit, not like clever use of game mechanics. Like, you know, making thousands of divines on day 2 is not clever. It's an exploit, and it's a mistake that GGG made because their game is so giant. So, you know, it is what it is. But ultimately, all that stuff has supposedly been quarantined, shut down, taken out. And so now this just sort of makes it so that you get some more div cards from that Scarab. It's fine. It's probably not all that great anymore, but ultimately, I think without that kind of exploitative tech, I don't really think that div card farming is all that great anymore anyways. I have done some just basic strong boxes on Mesa, which is just a strategy that I enjoy, and I've gotten a couple of fortunate cards, but it's been relatively slow with the removal of the old traditional div card Scarab. Div card farming is not really all that great anymore. This is a change here, this one right here. Restore the behavior where bonus completion for a map would be granted when you complete a Kirac mission for that map at a lower tier than is naturally occurring. So this is something I ran into while finishing off my full set of maps. Very annoying old design where you can use one of your scouting reports to make Kirac kick you missions or kick you maps that you haven't completed the bonus objective for, like say Sepulchre was the one that I was dealing with, and it'll show up as a white, yellow, or red tier map, but you'll only get bonus completion for it if it is a red tier corrupted map. And so I kept doing it on like yellow and white, not thinking, zoned out, tired, whatever, and then realized like, oh yeah, this is what's going on. And so they have made it so that if you complete a map with Kirac, bing, bang, boom, you get your bonus completion regardless of whether it is, potentially one of these high tier maps that technically would only give you completion at high tier with corruption. So good change there as well. This is probably the biggest change for me. I have looked through some of my footage because I saw this and I was like immediately like, all right, I need footage of this. And unfortunately I can't find any, but Wildwood ritual monsters. So specifically they added Wildwood monsters from Affliction League just hanging out near rituals throughout this league. And so I did start out playing with Ritual a little bit once I had unlocked my 3rd Atlas passive tree, and I spec'd out of it because I kept running into rituals where a random dude who's not even on screen with me would hit like a gigantic seismic wave cleave. It would do like this giant cleave that would go off screen, like this big slam, and it would be full of toxic rain pods, and they would explode and instantly kill me before I even knew what happened. And on the one hand, I love this idea. Like, I would love to be able to play a slammer that slams toxic rain pods out that go off the screen and kill everything. That seems fun as hell. But being on the receiving end sucked ass. So I no thank you. I am very glad for that particular monster to be tuned down. There's also, as I talked about in a previous video and did have footage for, the like little green poop balls that would explode out of dudes when they die, or some of the ritual monsters will throw those out, I think, while they're alive as well. Just lots of little hard to see balls that will follow you around and do chaos damage, even though they're white. So tuning all of that damage down, really, 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 really good. Using a bestiary orb to add a bestiary. Bestiary also unlocks the relevant beast crafting recipes. This is just like, almost feels more like a bug fix, but definitely good quality of life for people who are like not engaging with bestiary at all, but then need to do some sort of beast craft. Like, that's fine. Now, there were a couple of bug fixes that I wanted to highlight as well that I thought were really funny. One was getting stuck within petrified amber is something that could happen that they have fixed. I have had this specific thing happen. I did get stuck in trees a couple of times with like frost blinking or leap slamming right at the wrong spot and getting stuck inside the tree and just literally having no choice but to force quit out of the game as a way to get my character back under control. Pretty annoying. So I'm glad that is fixed. There was also this bug where jewels with the new max elemental resistance modifier, which I had seen this as well. If you tried to use the harvest crafting option that changes, like say fire res to cold res, if you tried to use that on it, it would not work. So, that is good that will now work again. It will change that max cold res to max fire res or whatever. Definitely a good thing for like chieftain builds, anybody using a melding of the flesh. Anything where you're trying to take advantage of really stacking one type of elemental resistance specifically for some specific reason. And then another bug that I ran into a lot doing Betrayal in the first couple of days is Gravicius's Betrayal reward, where he swaps a div card with a random one. It's random, right? It could be garbage, it could be amazing, maybe you get an Apothecary out of it, maybe more likely you get a Her Mask. But either way, you could like shove a totally worthless card in there and at least get a gamble, except every single time I tried to do it, it would just say, this cannot function, like this doesn't work. It would even give a little pop-up menu in the middle of the screen saying like, it didn't work. Cool, so thankfully they have fixed that. I'm very glad about that. And then finally, there was a bug that they fixed where previously they had added in the ability to sort of spam reapply socket and quality currencies, spam reapply fusings or whatever to a 6-socket item that you're trying to 6-link, and they have fixed that. They broke that, I think, by adding in the new technology that allows you to throw multiple stacks of a stackable currency into the stash tab at once. They had added this into the game last league and done so with I think it was Control Shift left click. I don't even remember now. But the point is, that my muscle memory has changed on that. Everybody's muscle memory has changed on that. It was previously only able to function on trades with other players, but now it's able to function just with throwing stuff in your stash. And so you hold control and you right click, and there we go. All the chaos orbs all at once. You can do that for taking stuff out of the stash as well. And so in doing that, they had unfortunately bricked the ability to like spam jewels on an item, spammable currency on an item. I'm trying to look around for something to spam links onto here. All right, here we go. Yeah, so now this functions again. Holding control and left click, awesome. Hey, see, it's a good idea to always do this kind of thing while you're recording. You know, streamer luck decides to turn on. So anyway, yeah, that has been re-enabled. You go to use the orb, you hold control and left click, and now it will once again spam apply correctly. And I'm really glad of that. That was a really, really good feature that they added in patch 3.24. And obviously I was hopeful that they would get that working again. And thankfully they have. All right, I'll wrap up with just one other thing. This is a recommendation that I saw from several people on the recent video about Kingsmarch. And so if you're using Awaken PoE trade, which I do recommend, there's actually the ability to come in and add a chat command. It's in the chat tab. So the way that you would open this up is you would hit Control-Shift-Space. That would open up this options menu. And then you come into the chat tab here. And you add a command, and you type in /Kingsmarch, and then you just keybind that to whatever you want to keybind it to. For me, it's like a special hotkey on my big fancy keyboard. And then whenever you're in a rested area or whatever, you can press that, and that'll immediately take you to Kingsmarch in exactly the same way that having keybinds for like /hideout, /exit, that sort of thing, /GND will automate those processes and make them a little bit faster for you. Having a /Kingsmarch will also just make it so that you can very quickly jump to Kingsmarch at the press of a single button instead of having to type it out the whole time, or, you know, more likely having to go to Johan, having to go to a waypoint and do it that way. All right, I think that pretty much wraps things up. This league is looking really amazing. It just keeps getting better, and I've really been enjoying it, making more discoveries, learning a lot more. Definitely looking forward to sharing more with everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye.